Morning, everyone. I'm just going to take a moment and go get myself a glass of water. I'll be right back. Morning, everyone. I'm just going to take a moment and go get myself a glass of water. I'll be right back. Morning, everyone. I'm just going to take a moment and go get myself a glass of water. Sorry, that was awkward. I had unplugged my headset, and so everything got played back multiple times. I apologize for that. Morning, Art. I finally did get your piece in the mail on Thursday. That we had some snow here, so that, that delayed me. But in any case, it should be arriving probably by Monday, I suppose. And if you don't get it this time, we'll do it again. We'll find something else. I'll send it registered mail or something like that. Okay. So welcome everyone. Today we are going to be reading uh, an essay entitled um, "A Contemporary Image for Our a Compensatory Image for Our Contemporary Culture, a Hindu Perspective" by Ashok Bedi. And Ashok Bedi is a Indian American uh, Jungian analyst who lives in Wisconsin, and he's quite well known and respected. And so, well, since I don't have Jordan here with me at the moment, at least, I'll just go ahead. Um, let's see if I can get my camera lined up the way I want it. Okay. So Greta says, I'm Scorpio like Carl is. Yes, and I'm not an astrologer myself, so I'm not sure what being a Scorpio means. But anyway, good morning, Sheree. Nice to see you. Okay, so I'm reading from the Red Book, from Jung's Red Book for Our Time, Searching for Soul Under Postmodern Conditions edited by Murray Stein and Thomas Arst. Um, and so I will just begin. Whenever the consciousness of an individual is out of balance, the self incarnates in a compensatory dream to restore the balance. When the consciousness of a culture or an era is out of balance, artists, writers, and shamans carry the self of the collective to incarnate in word or image, a compensatory perspective. Goethe's Faust and Jung's Red Book are two recent examples of a magnum opus where the self of the collective has incarnated via the active imagination of these creative individuals. To guide the telos of our matrix, the prescription of the Red Book as a GPS for our times will be amplified from a Hindu perspective. This essay is a hermeneutic reflection on Jung's Red Book. Okay, this is going to be interesting. So what Ashok Bedi is saying here, though, is that the collective unconscious, which means the combination of all of our unconsciouses, all human beings, is constantly incarnating. And we find it in our societies. And it's not 8.5 billion unconsciouses alone, it's also the unconscious as it appears in each country, in each group, each family, for example. And all of those have a collective unconscious of some sort. And by the way, you'll be noticing that as a fashion statement, I've switched to black. I'm mourning the loss of my country. And I'll switch back to some other color in my attire when it's duly appropriate. But for now, I'm mourning what we've lost, which in mine and my wife's case is a couple of generations worth of goodwill earned overseas. Okay. Jung's Red Book, a personal odyssey or a collective vision. To truly grasp the gifts of Jung's Red Book, the reader needs to get the ego out of the way to engage it. Quote, the first demand any work of art makes upon us is surrender. Look, listen, receive. Get yourself out of the way. There is no good asking first whether the work before you deserves such a surrender. For until you have surrendered, you cannot possibly find out, unquote. And that quote was from, let's see if I can find the footnote here. That is from C.S. Lewis's An Experiment in Criticism, from Cambridge University Press, 1961, page 19. Okay, so C.S. Lewis has lots to tell us over the years, and but this is a Jung class, so I'm going to stick with Jung. Okay, Jung comments that there are two types of works of art, psychological and visionary. Quote, the psychological mode works with materials drawn from man's conscious life, with crucial experiences, powerful emotions, suffering, passion, the stuff of human fate in general. All this is assimilated by the psyche of the poet, raised from commonplace to the level of poetic experience. That is why I call this mode of creation psychological. It remains within the limits of the psychologically intelligible. The gulf that separates the first from the second part of Faust marks the difference between the psychological and the visionary modes of artistic creation. Here, everything is reversal. The experience that furnished the material for artistic expression is no longer familiar. It is something strange and derives from the hinterland of man's mind, as if it had emerged from the abyss of pre-human ages, or from a superhuman world which surpasses man's understanding, and to which, in his weakness, he may easily succumb. The very enormity of experience gives its value and its shattering impact. Sublime, pregnant with meaning, yet chilling the blood with its strangeness. It arises from timeless depths, glamorous, demonic, and grotesque. It bursts asunder out of human standards of value and aesthetic form a tarrying tangle of eternal chaos. On the other hand, it can be a revelation of beauty which we can never put into words. But the primordial experiences rend from top to bottom the curtain upon which is painting the picture of an ordered world, and allow a glimpse into the unfathomable abyss. At this point in the allow a glimpse into the unfathomable abyss at this of the unborn and things yet to be. The creator of this kind of art is not only one who is in touch with the night side of life, prophets and seers are nurtured by it too. Okay. Many of you are familiar with the art that I've been doing over the last year after guidance from uh, our friend Colleen Kibert. And so I want to share with you, um, I want to share with you a piece that I've been working on recently that sort of bears this out. And I'm going to, let's see, to do is first find the picture that I want to share. Not that. It ain't that, babe. Wait a minute. Okay. Maybe I have a chance of finding it here. We'll see. Hmm. Second, because since I'm in the middle of this piece, I think you'll see what I mean. But now I seem to have locked myself out of everything. That's not good. Um, let's see. Sorry, I've also lost you in the process. So I'm looking for that. Um, Shadow, that's what I wanted to do. Seem to have found my channel all right. All right, there you seem to be back. So Richard says glamorous and demonic should never be uh, in the same thought. Demons have covered our entire nation. The astral plane is not heaven. Well, that's surely true. Um, as Jung said during the first, or around the time of the First World War in the Red Book, and so we had to taste hell. And, that certainly seems the way things are at the moment. I'll be trying to find a black pen in future because having a blue pen sticking out of my pocket certainly seems to spoil the effect. Uh, I actually have one. Uh, there's black pen. Okay. black erasable pen, which is perfect. uh, I'll do better. Anyway, yeah, probably your grandfather fought in the Second World War, not the first. The first was 1914 to 1918. And anyway, now, see if I can get to what I want. Ah, yes, here we go. All right, so here's my most recent piece as of yesterday, and I can share it with you so that you can see. I am intentionally trying to take this out of the collective unconscious, so I'm not trying to do anything. Um, and here it is. Okay, so um, yesterday, or when I started this earlier in the week, I think I started to make kind of circles, bubbles, and I didn't know what it was going to be. And as I progressed, um, certain things started to emerge. And one of them that I'll just point out, and remember that Jungian psychologists say that the first thing to emerge is evil. And so I see evil twice in this painting. I put the color ground down, which is the first step to just put color down kind of randomly or from a doodle. And so this is my doodle. I was doodling with uh, not imperfect circles intentionally. I didn't want to make it too perfect. I could have used glassware and coins and things to make perfect circles, but we are not perfect. And so I did not want to express things perfectly. And so I just started to draw circles freehand. And uh, the first thing that emerged from this when I started doing my Rocky treatment is this witch. Okay, and this witch appears in the, uh, the blockage area. What Colleen Kubert teaches us is the area of blockage, which is directly in the middle, and the blockage area here it is a witch, and also above her is this demon here appears in these golden eyes. Now, I've progressed this quite a bit from this particular stage, but evil has definitely emerged in this painting. And there's another figure here, over here, which is two eyes, and the nose is here, and the mouth is this V here on that figure. Now, if I increase the size of this so that you can see what comprises the witch, you will see that there are multiple figures within the witch. So here's all kinds of faces and things, which I don't do it specifically to try to get anything. So I simply go where my psyche tells me to go, and then what you see is what comes up from your unconscious. And so the witch is my unconscious talking, and this demon is my unconscious talking, and um, and so on. And so the figures within the witch's face are also my unconscious talking, but you can react to it any way that you want. And so this is what I'm trying to achieve in my artwork, which is to express the collective unconscious, express my own unconscious as it interacts with the collective unconscious, of course, and to express a rendition of the collective. So that's where that is. Now, what did I do? Put that away. Okay, but this is exactly what. Um, okay, so and Grenna asks what kind of materials I use. Uh, I'm now using professional quality watercolors from Winsor and Newton, uh, mostly, and um, Arches 300 gram or 140 pound um, watercolor paper. I normally use, although I've used every type of paper, I'm currently using um, very smooth watercolor paper, which is called hot pressed paper, which is very smooth. Cold pressed is the typical watercolor paper you find that has lots of peaks and valleys in it. So, okay. So as you um, contemplate this paragraph now, um, in which Jung is describing uh, the visionary aspect of art, um, I, I want to read it again to you, and you can think of that piece. And let's see, do I still have it here? Yeah, I still have it. So I'm going to share it again, and you can. I have no idea how these things come out. I have no idea what's in the rest of this painting as yet, but here's what Jung says. Um, so okay, I better start at the beginning of this passage again so that you can look at this piece and make your own judgment. Okay, so Jung comments there are two types of works of art, psychological and visionary. Um, the psychological mode works with materials drawn from man's conscious life with crucial experiences, powerful emotion, suffering, passion, the stuff of human fate in general. All this is assimilated by the psyche of the poet, raised from commonplace to the level of poetic experience. That is why I call this mode of creation psychological. Um, and I hope you're seeing this. Yeah, okay. That's that is why I call this mode of creation psychological. It remains within the limits of the psychologically intelligible. The gulf that separates the first from the second part of Faust marks the difference between the psychological and the visionary modes of artistic creation. Here, everything is reversed. The experience that furnished the material for artistic expression is no longer familiar. It is something strange that derives from the hinterland of man's mind, as if it had emerged from the abyss of prehuman ages, or from a superhuman world which surpasses man's understanding, and to which, in his weakness, he may easily succumb. The very enormity of experience gives it a value and its shattering impact. Sublime, pregnant with meaning, yet chilling the blood with its strangeness. It arises from timeless depths, glamorous, demonic, and grotesque. It bursts asunder out of human standards of value and aesthetic form, a tearing tangle of eternal chaos. On the other hand, it can be a revelation of beauty which we can never put into words, but the primordial experiences rend from top to bottom the curtain upon which is painting the picture of an ordered world and allow a glimpse into the unfathomable abyss. At this, of the unborn and things yet to be. The creator of this kind of art is not only one who is in touch with the night side of the prophets of life, prophets and seers are nourished by it too. Okay, so unquote. All right, so for what it's worth, from my perspective, I am not trying to paint beautiful art that I can sell. I am using it as a meditation technique so that I can hear what my own unconscious says about it. And you, of course, have your own perspective about what your own unconscious says about it. But you probably will never understand mine. So both the part two of Goethe's Faust and Jung's Red Book fall into this category of visionary art. These are archetypal compensations for the lopsided attitudes of their time and our times. Jung's Faust and Jung's Red Book are compensatory to the heroic and warrior-like attitudes of our times, particularly the contemporary West. Let us explore the visionary dimensions of Jung's Red Book and its compensatory prescriptions for the ills of our times. Okay, now there's a subtitle, Spirit of This Time and the Spirit of the Depths. Jung's Odyssey begins with balancing engagement with the duality between the contemporary and the timeless dimensions of the human condition. In the Red Book, he attends to this split. Quote, I have learned that in addition to the spirit of this time, there is still another spirit at work, namely the depths of everything contemporary, unquote. This reflection is one of the central tenets of the Hindu philosophy. We live in the ahamkara, ego, which is guided by the Atman, self. The Atman is a fractal of the Brahman, the collective, and its timeless flow. Chapters 10 and 11 of Bhagavad Gita are the most lucid descriptions of the Brahman consciousness. Here are a few excerpts. Quote, Lord Krishna said, O Arjuna, listen once again to my supreme word. I am the origin of celestial controllers and great sages also. One who knows me as the unborn, the beginningless, and the supreme Lord of the universe is considered wise among mortals and becomes liberated from the bondage of karma. Behold my hundreds and thousands of multifarious divine forms of different colors and shapes. Behold all the celestial beings and many wonders never seen before. Also, behold the entire creation, animate, inanimate, and whatever else you would like to see, all at once, all at one place in my body, unquote. And I just mentioned that this reminds me of some of the wonder that we're having, and we have been having for the last 30 years. First, when we got the vision of the Hubble Space Telescope corrected, and secondly, when we got the James Webb Telescope up, and we saw things that we had never imagined before. So the core prescription of the Hindu individuation process is to align one's life with the awareness of the Brahman consciousness while discharging one's responsibilities in the present. This would be akin to Jung's opus engaging the spirit of the depths while staying engaged in the spirit of this time. This prescription of Gita to balance the existence in the spirit of this time, informed by the spirit of the depths, is a major teleological instruction for modern humans, caught in the maya of here and now. Without the context of the timeless wisdom of cumulative human consciousness, its cautions and blessings. The method of engaging the spirit of the depths is depicted as a dialogue between Jung and his guru, the wise old man Philemon, in the scrutiny section, as well as in other inner incantations of the emergent self in the Red Book. Goethe's Faust is also the German prototype of this process of active imagination between the protagonist, Faust, and his inner figures, including the shadow, Mephistopheles. These works recapitulate the wondrous dialogue between the warrior, Arjuna, and his charioteer, and guide Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, which is the Hindu prototype of the process of active imagination. And so here's a copy of the Bhagavad Gita, and you can see Arjuna is on the back of the chariot. He's up above, and his chariot driver down below is blue, and that's Lord Krishna. And the entire Bhagavad Gita occurs in a second, just in a second. Richard says, we are being buried in Buffalo by freezing sleet right now also. Oh my goodness, Richard, I did not realize that you were from Buffalo. I went to law school there, and I lived on Kenmore Avenue in Buffalo for the 3 years that I was in law school. And also my ex-wife was from Grand Island, New York, which is quite nearby for them that knows. Buffalo often has a lot of snow because it's lake effect. Okay, so that completes this first segment, and because I don't have a partner here live at the moment, I am looking at the YouTube comments also, and will comment as I proceed. Yeah, I don't know. I think my address was 216 Kenmore, but I'm not 100% sure. It was a second floor flat that we lived in. And it was quite tight, but we managed to get a spinet piano up there from my wife, who was a music teacher at the time. Okay, Philomonus Sacrum Fausti Penitentia. Okay, this is a phrase that Jung liked. Philemon's shrine, Faust's penitence, is the inscription carved by Jung over the entrance of his Bollingen Tower. Quote, in the days when I first read Faust, I could not remotely guess the extent to which Goethe's strange heroic myth was a collective experience and that it prophetically anticipated the fate of the Germans. Therefore, I felt personally implicated. And when Faust, in his hubris and self-inflation, caused the murder of Philemon and Bacchus, I felt guilty, quite as if I myself in the past had helped commit the murder of the two old people. The strange idea was alarming, and I regarded it as my responsibility to atone for this crime or to prevent its repetition, unquote. Now, the story of Philemon and Bacchus, as you may remember, um, Zeus and another of the gods in Greek mythology were checking out the physical world. And so they were in disguise as human beings. And uh, they came upon a hut. They were hungry and it was cold. And they came upon a hut where um, where they asked for shelter for the night. And um, Philemon and Bacchus let them in. And in the course of the night, Philemon and Bacchus became aware that they were in the presence of gods, and this came about because um, the wine in the pitcher never reduced, and yet there was always plenty to drink, and they were able to spare the goose that they were going to slaughter for the event, and a number of other things. And so, as a result of that, uh, Zeus and his partner um, let Philemon and Bacchus into heaven, basically. Um, and so we know that they made it because we're talking about it today. And this is, um, 3,000 years later, I suppose, when that myth came up. And so they still live in our psyches today. And so this is why Jung was interested in Philemon, the magician, in his active imagination. So uh, it's when it says Philemon is sacred, Philemon's shrine and Faust's penitence. Um, it's Faust's penitence because Faust came along with a real estate project and decided to destroy Philemon and Bacchus's house in the physical world, but they went to heaven instead. Okay, here Jung captures the spirit and the dilemma of his times. It was a split between the hubris and the humility, materialism versus altruism, hero versus the wise old man. This dilemma and split played out in the German psyche, leading to the scourge of the Nazi movement. It is an unfinished business of the Western psyche and continues to plague the contemporary West and the United States in its aggressive, isolationist, nationalistic, and narcissistic leanings. In the Red Book, Jung struggles with this split. He must murder the heroic attitude, his ego position, and via his transcendent function, find a way to his inner wise old man, Philemon, and work through the split between the red one and the anchorite. Okay, that's the end of that section. So just so you understand the date here, this book was put together several years ago. It's copyrighted by Chiron Publications, 2017. And so it's already 8 years old, and yet it basically predicts what we're facing today. Um, uh, Sherry says, we have straight winds all over the state of Alabama. It was fast and damaged in many areas with strong winds around 1 o'clock for me. I sat quietly and got my dogs in the house. Okay, well, apparently we're going to have storms here this afternoon. I hope I'm in focus. I always wonder whether I'm in focus for this group. Uh, but I think YouTube uh, improves the quality um, over time. Okay, so the next subtitle is It's About Service. That's the subtitle. What defines the archetype of the wise old man, Philemon? The anchorite is the archetype of service. Jung reflects on this issue with useful guidance. Quote, I conceive it to be the duty of everyone who isolates himself by taking his own path of individuation to tell others what he has found or discovered, whether it be a refreshing spring for the thirsty or a sandy desert of sterile error. The one helps, the other warns, unquote. So this is one reason why I show my painting process is, I use this as a meditation technique, and it works quite well for me. I've been around very serious meditation for more than 30 years now, thanks to my wife taking up Tibetan Buddhism. And I've even done quite a bit of Tibetan Buddhist meditation. But when I started to do this style of painting, uh, it, for me, for my psychological makeup, it works better than just sitting meditation. And so I simply let my unconscious tell me where to paint on any given day. And so when I complete a piece, and you've seen many, of course, um, that's actually had three levels of my psyche doing the work. First is the doodle of the basic shapes that I'm putting in. Second is the coloring, which is my psyche telling me what color needs to be where. And then the Rocky treatment, where I outline certain um, color boundaries um, to highlight um, certain things in a given painting. And so it's a threefold unconscious process for me. And I don't care if I ever sell a piece, actually, because it's my method of keeping my psyche in good order. Okay, so the teleological instruction here is for contemporary society to move from a culture of narcissism to the ethos of altruism and service. This is exemplified in the lives of individuals like Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, who have mastered the realm of material success and then devoted their lives and riches to service of humanity. While analytical and Western thought sees service as expiation of guilt for diverting personal and collective resources for the individuation process, the Hindu perspective on service is one of dharma, or a divine offering. Once we have a sense of our telos or destiny via our individuation GPS. It is not out of guilt, but devotion to the divine and to the collective that we become a willing and useful spoke in the cosmic wheel, the unus mundus. The nature of the nature of such service is outlined by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Quote, do your duty dedicating all works to God in a spiritual frame of mind, free from desire, attachments, and mental grief. Those who always practice this teaching of mine with faith and are free uh, from evil become free of the bondage of karma. Um, and so in Hindu and Buddhist philosophy, the objective is to get out of the rat race of the opposites, getting out of the rat race of karma. Okay, the next subtitle is The Hindu Path to Individuation, From Hero to Anchorite. In the Hindu philosophy, the transition between different life stages is mediated via archetypal activations. These are ushered in via the archetype of the avatars of Vishnu. These avatars may be considered an archetypal activations as archetypal activations that reset our emergent personal myth during nodes of crisis, trauma, developmental transitions to a new life stage, new initiations, and during synchronistic possibilities for creative enterprise. Quote, whenever there is a decline of dharma, righteousness, and a predominance of adharma, unrighteousness, O Arjuna, I manifest myself. I appear from time to time for protecting the good, for transforming the wicked, and for establishing world order, dharma. Quote. Okay, now that's from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, verses 7 and 8, just so you know. And the significance of that is that these are the only words that were written in English in the Red Book. And I think I can actually show you that because I have a picture of the page. So let me see if I can find it quickly. Um, And of course, it's the last image that I have here. Oh, there it is. Okay. So this is on page 154 of the folio vision or version of the Red Book, which is actually a photocopy of the actual Red Book, which was written in German. So in this part of the page, oh, I'm sorry, I probably should share that so that you can see what I'm referring to. Okay, so this is page 154 of the Red Book, the folio version. And you can see Jung's painting of Philemon above him. And you see this little tiny figure down here at the bottom, and that's Jung himself praying before Philemon. And so you see the difference in size and so on as reflecting power. And this part of the page is all in German calligraphy. But up here on the upper left, in as a marginal note, is where Jung has written these words. And so I'll read them again because they're too small to read on the screen. Whenever there is a decline of dharma, righteousness, and a predominance of adharma, unrighteousness, O Arjuna, I manifest myself. I appear from time to time for protecting the good, for transforming the wicked, and for establishing world order, dharma. Quote. And so even though I've taken up wearing black as a fashion statement, and here I am wearing my black. I'm not going to appear in public in anything but black until I feel like our country has turned around from where it has been, and it seems to be going. Um, and I'm doing what I can, the limited work I can do to transform the situation, the world order, which is in complete chaos at the moment. It seems like perhaps not complete. I can imagine worse things happening, and they probably are happening. Okay, so thus the transition from the hero to the anchorite in the Hindu tradition would be mediated by the archetype of incarnations of Vishnu. It helps the Hindu to make a transition between the four stages of life. The human life, as is divided into four ashramas, stages. They are brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyasa. And so they start from celibate student, then householder, then pratyahara, and then the anchorite is the top level. The first quarter of one's life, brahmacharya, meditation or study of the Brahma, is spent in celibate, controlled, sober, and pure contemplation under a guru, building up the mind for the realization of truth. Grihastha is the householder's stage, alternatively known as samsara, in which one marries and satisfies karma, eros, and artha, possessions, within one's married and professional life. Vanaprastha is a gradual detachment from the material world, ostensibly given over duties to one's children, spending more time in contemplation of the divine and making holy pilgrimages. Finally, in sannyasa, the individual goes into seclusion, often is envisioned as renunciation, to find the divine through detachment from worldly life and peacefully shed the body for the next time, or for liberation. Okay, let's see what everybody said. It says, I'm in the process right now. I live like a monk. I often see the huge iris of an eye. It's usually 25 feet across, and it comes from around me and swallows me up. Uh, celibacy is the hardest part. No pun intended. Okay, well, celibacy is certainly pretty hard until you've had prostate cancer. After that, it's no problem. So anyway, okay, so carrying on. Um, the West does not have a paradigm to stand down from the hero archetype and to step into the anchorite. The West needed to compensate for this void. Goethe's Faust and Jung's Red Book offer this paradigm. The East has a long established tradition of the four stages of life to accomplish this crucial culmination of the individuation process, the sannyasa. This helps the Hindu to stand down from the ego's hero position and to step into the soul via transcendence into the anchorite mode. On behalf of the collective, Jung needed a myth to compensate for the West's embeddedness in its hero positions, temptations for power, prestige, and pelf, the third temptation of Christ. The West made a Faustian bargain to sustain this position. The shamans of the West, such as Jung, Dante, and Goethe, dreamed a way out of this sludge of its Faustian bargain to step into the anchorite mode. Edward Edinger's discussion of Faust is about how to maintain our soul position in the face of these temptations, citing the Christian prescription of the three temptations of Christ, the Hindu Jung's emergent personal myth. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. The Hindu perspective has its four stages of life to deal with the tension of the opposites between the red one and the anchorite in the Hindu psyche. The Hindu paradigm is pratyahara, or the withdrawal of consciousness from the mundane to the sacred, from outer to inner, from Maya and karma to dharma, or special purposefulness. It is about standing down from the ego's rhetoric position, or the ego's heroic position in its embeddedness in samsara, as shown in the character of the red one in Jung's Red Book, into the sunyata, the sacred void, leading via transcendence into the anchorite position. Jung's contemporary on the Tibetan living, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, features the same struggle, showing the same tension between the Chika Bardo, nirvana, and the Sibpa Bardo, rebirth, and culminating in the third question, the third position, the Chonid Bardo. This requires the subject to work through the tension between the hero and the anchorite modes of being and doing. In his Red Book, Jung struggles with this tension of the opposites in the Western psyche between the hero and the anchorite. In the process, it offers compensatory myth for our times to retire the Faustian bargain. The Red Book offers a place to retire the sins of Faust and the restoration of Philemon, the anchorite, the samyasa, to its rightful place in our emerging consciousness, the Via Dharma, service informed by spiritual purpose. Okay, I'm going to look up for a moment because I'm starting to hypnotize myself, and that is putting me to sleep. Um, okay, does anybody here in the YouTube group, um, have you found consciously a time when you would hypnotize yourself? Um, I'm just wondering. It happens to me very often when we're looking at Jung, because as we know, the purpose of Jung's whole psychology is to make accessible to us that healing power, which resides in our unconscious. So when I'm here and I'm speaking about anything, I'm trying to open and make accessible the healing power of your unconscious, not mine. Mine is already opened up. But when I do that, um, I then fall into the same healing zone, and sometimes I go to sleep, and so I have to be very careful that I don't put myself to sleep. Um, Now I'm going to take a short 5 minute break. I hope you'll all stick with me here, but I need to answer the proverbial call. Um, let's see here. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to shut off my video and sound for a moment. Returned. Show myself again. Terribly. As soon as I can find the contraption that does it. Ah, yes, here it is. Okay, there we are. I'm back, and I hope that's thrilling for probably not thrilling. Well, I did have some good news this week, which is that I have now passed um, the praxis in the state of Maryland. It's a test given by Educational Testing Service for special education. So that is one step in the process of being certified as a special education teacher. I went back into teaching at age 75. I'm now 78. And so I've had to take several of these exams, which are not easy. And I have been certified now in Maryland in social studies since last summer. And I have one more test to take in order to be certified um, in special education, which is the area in which I'm working at the moment. Now, I do want to mention one thing that I found very good, which is um, the people who make Cliff Bars also create things called blocks, energy chews. And here's how they come. They come in 6 little cubes like this. I am not paid for this announcement, but I found and 2 of these sets of blocks equals 1 cup of coffee caffeine. And so I've found this to be a very um, accommodating way to quickly get caffeine in my body when I'm at school because I have very limited time for my lunch. So, State of Awakening says, does hypnotizing oneself feel similar to attaching one's consciousness to a void or energy field and then allowing this to move through in a somewhat unaided fashion may be comparable to channeling? I do not think so. Hypnotizing is a way of putting someone to sleep, uh, so that then ideas can be placed in their unconscious without their conscious mind interfering with that. And so I don't see it as a type of channeling per se. Um, and I'm very susceptible to being hypnotized. And what I've found is that when we get into these complicated areas, I often just, go, whoa. And fortunately, there's nobody here to put ideas in my head, but that's what happens in hypnotism, where people say, will say things about not smoking or what have you, um, as a means of treatment. But I just put myself to sleep and then I have to wake up. uh, and Richard says, I've seen the red one incarnate once. His skin is like an eternal scab from severe burns. His spirit form haunts me still. And so, and by the way, thank you, State of Awakening, for the congratulations on passing my praxis. This was no small feat, I can tell you. But I've been teaching in the special education area now for a year and a half, and it's quite a challenging area, which I'm enjoying. Um, so anyway, I'm going to have one of these blocks right now. I apologize. Hopefully this will keep me awake. The ones I have are strawberry lemonade flavor, but they come in about 7 different flavors. Okay, so then there's a new section, another section in Ashok's essay. It's quite a long essay, so we have a ways to go. And this section is called Liber Quintus, the fifth book. Sonasham Dasani depicts the layers of Jung's work in the Red Book as follows. Liber Primus, the way of what is to come. Liber Secundus, the images of the erring. Liber Tertius, which is scrutinies, and Liber Quartus, which is Philemon's shrine, Faust's penitence at Jung's tower in Balingen, engraved in stone. Sonasham Dasani postulated the tower may be regarded as a three-dimensional continuation of Liber Novus, its Liber Quartus. This lays out the components of Jung's process. The essence of this process includes a dialogue between the ego and the unconscious, gradually moving toward a dialogue with the self and the transformation of the self into the image of Philemon. This dialogue is further amplified via images and mandalas. Finally, there is a dialogue between Philemon and the dead ancestors to compensate and complement the missing pieces of the jigsaw puzzle in our ancestral paradigm, and then to embody these core insights into stone at his tower. A repentance of the sins of their warrior culture and its deal with the devil, and to honor the emergent wise old man. The guru Philemon as an emergent myth for our collective. In his inner work, the myth of Philemon, particularly his murder by Mephistopheles on the instructions of Faust, and repentance for this murder became the task of our collective. This was represented in the stone carving of Jung's tower at Balingen, Philemon Sacrum Fausti Penitentius, Philemon Shrine, Faust's Penitence. Okay, so, right now we're, in the story of Philemon and Bacchus. Mephistopheles, who's a representative of the devil here, or a version of the devil, tells Faust that, if Philemon and Bacchus are holding up his real estate development, then Mephistopheles gets rid of them. And Faust says, fine, get rid of them. And so Mephistopheles quickly murders Philemon and Bacchus, who were these kind old people who were hosts to the gods. And so we can look at that in our own current affairs right now, that there are a lot of things going on right now. I mean, there's there's sort of an international murder going on uh, of common sense and and how we get back to to what we would call normal in a way of living um, is still open. We don't know. Sherry says, do you remember, Skip, who was speaking to this person when this was said? Quote, if you would be an Indian, I will give a prayer for you. I walk in beauty to drive out the white man's poison. What is this? It sounds like something like Chief Seattle or something. Um, so anyway, um, when I face my students every day in middle school, many of them are quite angry today. Okay. And they don't know why. They actually don't know why. But what they do know is that the this white man, a white man, is their enemy. And one of the things that I have to persuade them, my students are mostly Black, about, I would say, 85% Black. Um, what I have to convince them is that I'm on their side. I'm there to help them, and and there are millions of us. There are millions of white men and women who are working to help bring them out of poverty, to educate them, and and it's a hard sell because they've been um, dumped on by systematic racism for a long while. And I do acknowledge that there is systematic racism in our school system. Um, and I'm trying to be a counter to that. Um, and sometimes I do have breakthroughs. And so very complicated, but that's why I'm wearing black. That's one of the reasons why I'm wearing black is that um, people that we've been trying to help no longer see our help or understand it. Um, yeah. Okay. All right. So reading on here. Okay. So what what Ashok says is that um, he's commenting on the fact that Philemon and Bacchus have been murdered and their place is sacred, and Faust must be a penitent. And here's what he says. However, there is a fifth step in the process. This includes living out our personal myth. This may be considered as the fifth layer of Jung's process, which would insist on embodiment of these insights in life's work, the Liber Quintus. To make room for our individuation, we borrow time and resources from the collective. However, this debt must be repaid via service to the collective in the form and manner that the collective demands. Jung elaborated on this issue in his reflections about service as the culmination of the individuation process. Quote, only to the extent that a man creates objective values can he and may he individuate. Every further step, individuation, read sobriety, creates new guilt and necessitates expiation. Hence, individuation is possible only as long as substitute values are produced. Individuation is exclusive adaptation to inner reality, being oneself, and hence on allegedly mystical process, uh, and hence an allegedly mystical process. The expiation is adaptation to the outer world. It has to be offered to the outer world with the petition that the outer world accepts it. And so when I was interviewed for my job, I made my offer, which was that I felt I owed it to the fathers and grandfathers of my students to help them on their way and make them successful. And the way I said it was, I felt I owed it to the fathers and grandfathers of these students who kept me alive in Vietnam. That was the obligation. And when I offer my services in my school setting, I'm petitioning the outer world to accept it, but very often it is not accepted because we've done such a poor job of it in the United States. So much for the U.S. being the greatest country in the world, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so Jung's emergent personal myth was Philemon, who is the very embodiment of service. The story of Philemon and his wife, Bacchus, is instructive at this point in our journey. Bacchus and Philemon showed hospitality toward the gods and were rewarded. According to the Greek myth, the gods Zeus and Hermes assumed human form and visited the earth disguised as poor travelers. When they reached Phrygia, they looked for shelter but were turned away by everyone except Philemon and Bacchus. The old couple gladly shared their small amount of food and wine with the strangers. Bacchus and Philemon realized that their guests were gods after noticing that the wine jug never ran out and that their poor wine was replaced by wine of the finest quality. Zeus and Hermes led the couple to a hill above Phrygia and sent a flood to destroy the land to punish the people who had turned them away. This is the tale of selfless service, even to strangers. In most traditions, including the Hindu, a guest is considered the incarnation of the gods. Atiti Devo Bhava, guest is God. When we honor a guest, even when they are strangers, we honor the divine. The traditional greeting in Hindu is Namaste, which translates as, I honor the divine in you. Living your personal myth, your dharma, constitutes the central tenet of karma yoga in Hindu philosophy. A life lived in accord with one's soul code is the seminal recommendation of the Bhagavad Gita. Quote, one who does all work as an offering to God, abandoning attachment to results, remains untouched by karmic reaction or sin, just as a lotus leaf never gets wet by water. Unquote. Hindus recognize that Dharma is life lived with the soul when the soul is aligned with the intention of the primal spirit. Here, the Atman self is aligned with the Brahman, the collective. Dharma is the spiritual purposefulness. There are four plateaus of Dharma. The Shiva Dharma, or self Dharma, is cultivating our personal potentials in accord with the Atman and the Brahman. This prepares us for ashram Dharma, where we put our personal gifts in service of our family. Having retired our family Dharma, we graduate to Varana Dharma, where we put our gifts and potentials in service of our community. When we attend to these three Dharmas, we are given a glimpse into the mysteries of the transcendent, the divine, the Brahman consciousness at the dusk of life in Reta Dharma, the path that leads to awareness of our higher conjunctio with the collective, what Jung might call the unus mundus. One teleological prescription of Jung's Red Book is for our collective to move from consumerism to altruism, from a focus on self to a devotion to service. Our very survival as a human community may depend upon it. Boy, do you think? And so, the last few years, I've been riding past various car dealerships, especially Toyota, a Toyota dealership I pass every day on my way to work. And the lot is filled with pickup trucks. and and so everybody wants to be a cowboy with a rifle in their back window and all that good stuff, right? But is that making a better world? I'm not so sure. Um, and, Richard says, Jesus wouldn't have turned water into wine without Mary's prompting. Um, well, I tend to take these sorts of miracles as um, metaphorical. And so here's my glass of water, and to me it is wine. And so it's up to you to prove that it isn't. Right? Um, so anyway, okay, let's go on. I'm not saying I'm Jesus Christ or anything like that. I'm just saying there is a difference between the unconscious and the conscious realms. Um, so anyway, engagement of the feminine in the Red Book. In the Red Book, Jung's engagement with the feminine is mediated by the imaginal figure of Salome. Salome fosters ambivalence in the Christian lexicon as the one righteous, the other unrighteous. The righteous Salome was the wife of Zebedee, Matthew 27:56, the mother of the disciples James and John, and a female follower of Jesus. This Salome was the one who came to Jesus with the request that her sons sit in places of honor in the kingdom, Matthew 20 through 21. She was also one of the women, quote, looking on from a distance, unquote, when Jesus was being crucified. along with Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of Joseph and James, Mark 15 and 40. These same women were together on the third day after the crucifixion, bringing spices to Jesus's tomb to anoint him. When they encountered the angel who told them that Jesus was risen, they ran to tell the disciples the good news. Mark 16, 1 through 8. Mark's gospel is the only one that mentions Salome by name. The other unrighteous Salome is not mentioned by name in the Bible, but we read about what she did in Mark 6. John the Baptist's fate was decided when Herodias's daughter, Salome, danced for Herod at his birthday banquet. Pleased with the girl's performance, Herod offered her a rash boon. Salome went to Herodias to ask her advice on what the gift should be, and Herodias told her to ask for the head of John the Baptist on a platter. Salome obediently asked Herod for this grisly gift, and though the Bible says Herod was grieved, he honored his promise. John was beheaded in prison, and his head given to Herodias's daughter, who took it into her mother. Mark 6, 21 to 28. It is interesting that Salome becomes the embodiment of the anima in Jung's active imaginations. What might be the teleological import of this choice? We may understand this better in the context of the dark Hindu goddess Kali. Kali is the destroyer of the shadow in our personality and the community. She then assimilates this darkness in her own being so that the world may live in the light of the spirit. Kali is the fierce dark goddess who amputates the darkness of our soul and makes room for the light. Whenever a life is out of balance, the shadowed aspects of the individual or culture get in the driver's seat. When the archetype of the dark goddess Kali incarnates in our life to destroy the darkness of the personality and culture to make room for a new consciousness to emerge, it seems Jung had accurately intuited the emergence of the Kali archetype in our collective via her Western prototype in Salome. She will manifest in the contemporary culture to restore the balance of our embeddedness in our shadow globally. It is my speculation that the Kali archetype may be manifest in our environmental catastrophes, street wars between marauding gangs, roaming our cities, skirmishing between racial groups, nuclear Armageddon, the collapse of our healthcare system, and gun violence going amok in schools and streets. In a post-apocalyptic world, a new and just world order will emerge. This teleology has been indicated in the Bible in the Apocalypse of John. Quote, "And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband." Perhaps this is also the key to Jung's dialogue with the dead in the scrutinies, the dead who have returned from Jerusalem, still seeking answers. Perhaps the transition through Salome's Kali phase is a necessary detour before our civilization can emerge as the holy city of the New Jerusalem. The New Jerusalem will honor the feminine political empowerment and the subjugation of a negative, static masculine world order. This subjugation of Shiva by Kali may already have begun. This groundwork was laid by leaders like Golda Meir of Israel, Indira Gandhi of India, Margaret Thatcher of Great Britain, Angela Merkel in Germany, Theresa May in Great Britain, the near presidency of Hillary Clinton in the United States, who won the popular vote and perhaps led the emerging feminine leadership in the USA in promising candidates like Michelle Obama, Elizabeth Warren, and others. This incarnation of the Kali archetype was manifest on January 21st, 2017, Donald Trump's first day in office as the U.S. president, when millions of women across the globe and men who supported them stood in solidarity of this sisterhood to protest against the oppressive patriarchy. The global feminine movement, and of course we can add Kamala Harris to this group now. The global feminist movement is in the process of its initiation into her own authority. The myth that best embodies this process is masterfully rendered by Sylvia Pereira in her work on the descent to the goddess. She postulates that Inanna, the innocent goddess of the upper world, must descend into the realm of her dark sister, Erizkagal. This entails surrender of her suffering and sacrifice, but return to the upper world tempered by the experience of the dark side and empowered to claim her wholeness and equality with the men. Thus, Erizkagal and her Hindus analogs, Kali and Durga, are the guiding myths for our collective currently. This is the crossroad Jung reached in his Red Book in his dealing with Salome versus Philemon, his competing emerging myths, but it is left to us to make our own choice at this point in history of our civilization. It is my postulate that the Philemon is the transitional archetype that will set the stage to welcome Kali, the destroyer, and Durga, the protector warrior, at the center stage of the emerging global consciousness. The feminine authority will ride the masculine order as Kali rides Shiva, who surrenders to her authority in this image. Okay, and then quote, Jung further amplifies this emergence of the wise woman. We are dealing with the heterosexual eros of anima figure in 4 stages, and consequently with 4 stages of the eros cult. The first stage, Hawa, Eve, Earth, is purely biological. Woman is equated with the mother and only represents something to be fertilized. The second stage, Helen of Troy, is still dominated by the sexual eros, but on an aesthetic and romantic level where a woman has already acquired some value as an individual. The third stage raises eros to the heights of religious devotion and thus spiritualizes him. Hawa has been replaced by the spiritual motherhood. Finally, the fourth stage illustrates something which unexpectedly goes beyond the almost unsurpassable third stage, sapientia. How can wisdom transcend the most holy and the most pure? Presumably only by the virtue of the truth that the less sometimes means the more. This stage represents a spiritualization of Helen and consequently of the arrows as such. Unquote. Okay, let's see how much more we have. I think I'm going to stop in the middle of this. And, I urge everyone to get your own copy of this book. Um, and so I will mark our place as that so that we can come back to it next week. And we'll start with the global feminist movement. And what it means in terms of what Dr. Jung was saying archetypally. So Richard says, mystery of iniquity, Paul wrote of 2,000 years ago, is what we call the Dionysian mysteries, the mystery of religion of Babylon. John calls it the works of the Nicolaitans in Revelation. I just purchased one while listening today. Thanks for sharing space, everyone. Okay. Having a little problem here. Okay. So Cherie says we look forward to Jung's 150th birthday this summer, and very much so. Hope I can find time to get out and really celebrate it. Okay, so I've been reading from Jung's Red Book for Our Time, Searching for Soul Under Postmodern Conditions, edited by Mary Stein and Thomas Arst. And I've particularly been reading today from an essay by Ashok Bedi, a compensatory image for our contemporary culture, a Hindu perspective. And so I hope you'll buy this book. I hope you'll buy all five volumes of this series because they are very powerful in different ways, and they show how many different facets there are in looking at Jung. Okay, and the number is actually infinite. Okay, it certainly is infinite, and so the 70 essays that are out there that came in for this series are primarily by Jungian analysts, I believe. And laymen like me have pretty much been closed out of that and closed out of inner city books, for example. And yet we all have perspectives, and each one of you has a perspective, I'm sure, as we've been reading this, and you evaluate what you think about it as compared to what actually is. And so anyway, I think it came to me that um, the biggest problem that we've had in our politics is social engineering. In other words, um, I think a big reason why the Democrats lost this election this year when they thought they would win is because they've been too active in social engineering, trying to force people to view things a certain way. Um, and, that has been done in the form of born males who can play uh, women's sports, for example, and all these other sorts of things. Everything that you think is cringeworthy, that's social engineering. And so the Democrats lost based on trying to force too much social engineering down our throats. And my prophecy is that the Republicans will lose the next election for the same reason, because they're trying to cram a lot of things down our throat. And so we need to start talking with our politicians and telling them to get off the social engineering kick. When it's time in the course of human events for changes to be made, such as the way we worship, um, those changes will come. We don't need to engineer them. We don't need to say that you have to believe in Christianity my way and there's no other way. We don't have to do that. And ultimately, we're going to see how much all human religions are alike. And, I just give you the Bhagavad Gita as an example, which we've been referring to today. There's so much in the Bhagavad Gita that is exactly like the things that we think about in our daily lives. And instead of fighting people over it and killing people because they think of things in a different way, we need to start um, getting on together, okay? Because no matter what we say, we're still that pale blue dot out there in the middle of infinite black, and we can't find any other living creatures out there. Um, and, so Sheree says, great discussion words about politics on both sides, male and female. Were educated by elite colleges of greed that were bought out years ago, but we have had quite something to learn to think outside of I think out of the box, to help to bring knowledge and wisdom into our world. And in the end, we don't have to try. Knowledge and wisdom will come to us. And that is an automatic process, just as um, Paul Simon referred to the automatic earth in one of his songs, in Graceland. In the song Graceland, Paul Simon refers to the automatic earth and the way that we must be together is going to come automatically. We don't have to try to engineer it or make it in our image. Um, and so the Democratic Party has not understood that teaching and lost the election most recently, but the Republican Party is doing the same thing in even more so. And they're going to find that they too have a lot of resistance. And I'm just seeing, we're reliving the 60s basically. And I know that in Project 2025, there is a provision about registering the draft that says that when young people now register for the draft starting this year, of course, this has not been passed by Congress, but we'll see how that plays out. But they're going to have to get an MOS, a military occupational specialty, also, so that people know what their skills are. But I know, and you should know, that um, getting a military occupational specialty is not an easy task. And in most cases, you have to spend at least 6 months just to become a rifleman. And so, to me, what is implied by that idea is that there will be a draft and that people will have to come on active duty for a period of time to serve in some way. At least that's what the MAGA people think. And I uh, I think we have some problems with recruiting, and they're trying to figure out how they're um, going to fill the blanks in our military. I have a sense that um, the Trump administration would love to go to war in the Middle East against Iran. They would love to do that. And um, but in order to do that, you have to have a fully manned U.S. military. And so we'll see how that plays out as our new Secretary of Defense, Hegseth, um, starts hitting the ground running and realizing that he doesn't have enough people to man the ships. Anyway, uh, and so Richard refers to I'd rather be a hammer than a nail, which is El Condor Pasa from Paul Simon. And then I love Paul Simon, Shuri says, and also listen to Komoto, Japan, and Yanni and the Acropolis, his first concert in Greece. What came through his many musicians, singers, orchestra from all over the world, and what he said. Yes. Okay. Well, those are all well and good. The question is, how do we bring it into fruition? And, I have a colleague who is a born again Christian who went to Liberty University, and every time something literally awful happens in the current administration, he says, well, we'll just leave it up to Jesus. Well, Jesus has been dead for 2,000 years, and having that attitude is just a passive way of facing the world. And I think we need people who are engaged to find ways that we can all work together. And it's not as simple as Jesus will take care of it. Oh, yeah, right. Okay, so um, for my part, I'm doing my part to the extent I can on my broken 78-year-old body, and I hope that the rest of you will do what you can as well. Um, yeah, yeah. And Cherie says music and art hold our world together, and amen to that. It's a state of awakening. And so, with that, I wish you a good day and enjoy your federal holiday tomorrow if you're an American, and enjoy your day if you're not an American. I intend to go out and get myself a pair of black shoes to go with my black outfits because uh, until such time as the attitude of our government changes, I'll be wearing black in mourning. And so, and Richard responds, I've seen Jesus and he's as real as the redwood. Well, yes, I do agree with that. He's quite real. And the question is, what does he want you to do in the world? So, peace. And let us be at peace with that. Okay, see you next week.